Today I want to talk a little bit about change. I brought my cell phone, if you've noticed, and there's a reason for that. It's not because of notes, not only is it to time me, but it's also to give you use as a prop a couple of times as we move along. Because when we talk about change, it happens every day, right? So choosing the right path, diversifying, networking, those are three things you can do as you move forward when change happens. The change I'm going to be talking about mostly is about job change. Obviously, change is inevitable. I remember sitting out here for a lecture 25 years ago. I'm going to date myself. We had cell phones then, by the way. They were a little bigger. And I remember someone saying, you're going to change your job 5 times in your lifetime. So one generation later, the numbers as of 2018, you can see behind me from the Bureau of Labor Statistics show that the average person changes jobs now 15 times, up to 15 times, with an average of 12. And most workers spend less than 5 years at that job, at each job. So things are actually okay. You're going to be okay because there are far better things ahead than behind. Basically, stay positive as this change happens. That's what I wanted to do. I have to show that because it's not often I get to show when I was actually in shape and younger. Whenever I get the chance, I roll that baby. I wanted to be a baseball player, but of course, even if I had gone very far, which I went decently far, but if I played in the big leagues, the average big leaguer plays 3 to 4 years. So obviously, you're not going to stay playing baseball very long, right? So you have to have an idea of what to do next. What I found interesting was this. With an ever-increasing number of different career choices, people aren't just changing their jobs, they're changing their entire careers. On average, up to 5 times now, you're going to change your career before you retire. And 30% of the total workforce changes jobs every 12 months. It's amazing to think about how change has really come in so many different ways. And if you're under the age of 35, you may not remember this book, but if you're like me, and over the age of 35, just by 1 year, you'll notice that the book is, these books used to be called the Choose Your Own Adventure books. Who remembers those? Do you guys remember those? Right, okay. Page 35 might say, if you should take the path, if you want to take the path, go to page 76. If you want to take the boat across the Amazon, go to page 84. Well, when you go to 76, the path leads to a golden city, but on page 84, if you're taking the boat, you get eaten by an alligator. Same idea. You got different paths to take as you go forward. So I've already done 3 careers. I'm not the 5, so I'm definitely keeping the average down, but they're 3 totally different careers. Baseball, TV, and winemaking, which I wanted to bring a prop of wine, but Pepperdine's still a dry campus, so I thought I might get in trouble. When I was here at Pepperdine, we had an amazing baseball coach named Andy Lopez. He was a fantastic person to follow, and he always said, you know, there's one line we all need to understand, and that is, life is difficult. And he would use the book written by M. Scott Peck, The Road Less Traveled. And he would always say, tear the whole book up. Tear it up, keep the first page. Tear half of the first page and throw it away. Heck, tear 3/4 of the first page and just keep the first line and understand the first line, which is life is difficult. Basically, get over it. It's okay, because more often, life is amazing. And the reason why, as we move forward, I'm showing these photos is because as a correspondent, obviously a lot of times you're covering some pretty bad stories, more often than not. So diversifying, finding things to keep your mind off those is a way to do it. I happen to choose photography, so every picture you're seeing I actually took on a story so far and throughout the rest of this presentation. So what you can do now is you can diversify. You can start right now. You can actually use your phone to your advantage. I know these things have become everybody's nemesis, but actually there is 0 reason that any of us, no matter what our age is, cannot stay in touch with each other. On this phone, I have phone numbers from professors here at Pepperdine. We didn't have smartphones then, we had cell phones, but I still had in their numbers at a later date, and up to someone I met a couple of days ago from Dallas, Texas. The idea is you never know when you might cross paths again. You never know when someone might need to know someone else. In fact, one of my friends is in the car industry. He's a PR guy. Another one has got a new job with a really cool company with a really cool car technology. Yesterday, I put them together because I still had their numbers together. So basically, as change happens, diversify, use your phone to your advantage, write down ideas, open paths, connect. There's no reason why we can't connect, but obviously limit the connection of this. Use it to your advantage. Don't be afraid. I went from baseball to television. I mean, I went from throwing a baseball in front of people to being in front of a camera. I had no idea. That was never part of the plan when I was at Pepperdine. I never thought I'd be standing in front of a fire or talking about anything. In fact, a lot of times I'd make fun of the weather guy like most of us do. I would never actually thought I would be a TV newsman. What's interesting as we go forward on some of these photos is that, for example here, there are things you never understood and we don't normally see in an everyday life. This one here. These firefighters are actually looking away from the fire. Behind them is where the fire is burning. They're looking out to see where the fire is going. I had never seen that before in all the fires I've covered. All the trucks all the way down the highway were looking and calling in the airstrikes trying to save houses in the other direction. These are U.S. forces on the border with Mexico. We've heard about all the issues that go on, of course, with our borders, and these are men and women that have camouflaged themselves trying to stop the coyotes who bring across a lot of our migrants who are trying to come here. This one still hurts to this day. This is Haiti, about 2 days after the earthquake. And this 2-year-old boy says it all. Look at his eyes. What you don't see is the bigger picture. Behind him is a pile of rubble with 50 of his classmates who didn't make it. And they're playing out front. I mean, this is the reality of the world. So why can't we embrace change when it happens to our jobs? I mean, these kids had to embrace change when it was one of the most horrific things you could ever see, especially for a 2-year-old. Obviously, the war. So much has happened in the last, since 2000, well, since 2001. But our wars began really in 2003, and Afghanistan right before that. In Korea, they've never embraced change in some respects. You can see the curb right there. That's the line between the north and the south. On this side's the south, on that side's the north. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, they stare at each other. Just stare. Both the Koreans on both sides of the border go out and find the largest boys at young ages, and they bring them in. They actually sew BBs in their pants, and they march to make them sound louder. And the idea is we want bigger, louder armies on our side, and they're staring at the people on the other side. In Thailand for the tsunami, this obviously the boat into the side of the home. These people had to embrace a lot of change. Their lives were uprooted. What you don't see is this boat's a mile inland. The ocean is a mile away. That's how powerful the tsunami was in 2005, or 2004 into 2005. Katrina. That's all I need to say on that one, right? When you are in the news, sometimes you become the news and you don't want to. In this case, in Venezuela, I was threatened by Hugo Chavez. Basically said I was a racist, a sexist, and I didn't like people of color. What else did he say I was? I was fat, I think, too. Takes one to know one, right? He threatened to throw me out of the country. It's funny because if you look, Ava Gollinger was the name, and it's supposed to be a lady in New York, but it's actually him. He writes the article. Well, he wrote the article himself. He's no longer with us, thankfully. And then I end on this one, which is really says it all. This is Las Vegas, and that was used as a gurney. And there's too much violence in this country right now, and that's something we have to change. So I talk about change. We can actually bring change ourselves, and I'll get to that here at the end of this program. The positive, though, again, is that with every negative, I always believe there are more positives. I got to swim with sharks. I mean, that's a great white, and I took that photo off the coast of Mexico. I got to see the 70th anniversary of Pearl Harbor with Marines, one who was there and others who were there. Completely different generations standing at attention. Super Bowl, go Niners, North California boy. All right, it's okay. It's okay. If you're Kansas City, I'm sorry, you're still red. It's okay. The World Series. This was when the Giants won in 2010, but that's actually the people outside the stadium helping bring the flag in for the national anthem. I thought it was a really cool moment. And life comes full circle. Here's baseball again, right? Got to cover spring training, and I'm sitting there watching this little boy just going for an autograph, remembering just a few years before, I never thought I'd be sitting on this side taking a picture of him, reporting about the event he was at. And finally, in Chile, no one thought 33 men would come out of the ground alive. No one did. And I still get chills even thinking about it, being there and watching these families who'd sat there in these kind of makeshift camps for months waiting for their loved ones, not knowing if they were going to come out alive, knowing they were alive, but not knowing if they're going to come out alive. So as I show you all those great photos, right? Wow, that's cool. You're seeing history from the front row, Adam. Why would you leave? Well, change happened. I'm not going to blame it on the White House, but let's talk about Washington. It's a mess. I don't care where you are politically, it's not fun. And as a reporter, it's not fun. We don't cover those other stories. If we do, it's only death. So change happened, and I thought, you know what? I'm not going to be able to do this anymore. I want to be with my family. I want to enjoy life. So I went to the other extreme. We opened a small tasting room in Napa. Never thought I'd be going into the wine industry. I have to say it's a lot of fun. I meet many new people. It's almost very similar to news in the sense that you're always meeting somebody new every day. But I embrace change. I had people tell me, you are crazy. There's already 34 tasting rooms in downtown Napa. This building here had flooded a bunch years ago. People say, it's going to flood again. What are you doing? But we embraced it and ran with it. And In 7 months, we've had more than 5,600 people come through. And so the idea is, again, embrace change. Go with it. You can make change. Now I'm talking about Cabernet. I'm not talking about Hugo Chavez. I'm talking about grapes. I mean, that's not bad, right? I took that photo earlier. Talking about wine. I never thought I would be standing on stage at Pepperdine talking about wine. It's kind of cool. I wish a couple of my old professors were here. I could tease them a little bit about that, because I think they had a little wine before they came to class. And I'm still doing television, because what's amazing nowadays, besides having a phone that can keep you all in touch, you can actually be your own reporters. You can actually bring change along yourself. You can still do television if you want to. You can do television for the first time. And obviously, this is being streamed as well. So here's what you can do. First of all, never give up. There's no reason to ever give up. I know it's the positive thing to say. Change happens and it gets frustrating, but never, ever give up. There's no reason to. 2, I call it a mile wide. I couldn't fit all the words on the slide, but a mile wide, there's 2 ways to know, in my opinion. 1, an inch wide and a mile deep. Or 2, which is I tried to shoot for, which is a mile wide and an inch deep. Basically know a little bit about a lot. That's what I shot for. You can go for that. I think it's, especially nowadays you can Google anything. You find something over there, you're like, oh wow, heck, now you can just point the phone at it, take a photo, and it tells you what it is. There's no reason not to know more. Have faith. Whether you're like me and believe in God, or you're someone who believes in one of these beautiful palm trees at Pepperdine, it's okay, but have faith. There's okay to have faith, and you should be able to express that. And experience everything. There's no reason not to experience. Again, back to these phones, right? You have no reason not to experience and see what's out there. It helps you embrace change, helps you overcome change. So use the phone wisely. Family. Whether like my family, who I love dearly, or if it's even not blood relatives, embrace yourself and surround yourself with family. It could be friends. It could be acquaintances. But it's important to have that support structure to help with change. And finally, as I wrap this whole thing up, the next slide is really personal for me, because I went to Pepperdine, my wife went to Pepperdine, my brother went to Pepperdine, my sister-in-law went to Pepperdine. We didn't plan it that way. We overlapped by 2 years. It's kind of fun. And my niece went to Pepperdine. She was one of the victims in Thousand Oaks. She'll always be a wave, 100%. I wish she was here to see this. So as we close, I'd like you guys to do this. I'm the end of the second session, so I think it's a great way to close. When I speak now, I do I call it Elena's greeting, but you can call it whatever you want to. There's no reason for us not to network, for us not to meet new people, for us not to have those connections to be able to change and to overcome change. So as we leave, and as I'm finished here, I want you guys to stand up. I want you to find someone you don't know, truly. If you're old, someone young. If you're gay, someone straight. If assuming you know that. Probably more than you probably know that. But if you're black, someone white. If you have spiked hair, someone who's bald. Find someone opposite. Go introduce yourself. Say hello. Ask some questions, even for only a minute or 2. You're going to go outside, obviously, be able to mingle a little bit before the third session. So please do that. I think it's something that would help you. It helps all of us, and would help our country and our society as a whole. So I appreciate you guys coming, and have a great day. And please do the greeting.